So the next video in my series about the truth about stuff. The idea behind these videos is to give you an idea of what's going on just in the world in general, whether the truth about religion, the economy, or anything else I care to bring up to date on. This one is basically about the elderly and the housing market. Simply, what's annoying me recently is the issue with obviously the massive sort of cuts in the economy and old people continuing to live a lavish lifestyle even though they complain about it. The reason I say this is basically a lot of old people who own their own houses have done a thing called equity release. You may not have heard that, but basically what it is you get loaned money based on the value of your house, which you don't have to pay back till the house is sold. What that basically means is your house has been valued at a certain market value, then you're loaned money by the bank, who then loans money off somebody else to pay that money. Basically, because you might not be aware of it, but banks loan money from other people, whether that be private investors, investment houses, other banks, to basically stay afloat. They don't deal in physical assets, they don't deal in properties, they don't deal in anything else, they deal in cash. That's why they're banks. What that basically means is if you've got a house, say, which was bought 40 years ago for £10,000, it's now been valued at, let's just say, £300,000. Ordinarily, that's not a bad thing because the economy gradually increases every year, housing prices go up gradually a couple of percent every year, everything evens out. What's basically happened is, in 2005 and around 2008, there were two housing booms. What that meant was houses were getting overvalued, people were selling up, remortgaging, doing equity release on houses that didn't have the same value as they should have done. What that meant was, if you had a house for say £100,000 and an estate agent valued it at £200,000, that meant you could go to the bank and get a remortgage or equity release for the £200,000. That was great because you got the lump of money to spend on whatever you like. What that meant was the bank was left on their books with something worth £200,000. Then the housing market dipped and obviously the housing sector fell apart. The house was back to pretty much its original value. What that meant was basically now your house is worth £100,000. What that means in essence is the fact that the bank now has given you £200,000, whether that be an equity release, remortgage or a mortgage. They then have to try and loan that money off somebody else and they don't have it because your house is now only worth £100,000. They've effectively lost £100,000. That basically means that they can't go on to loan money to anybody else, and that's why a lot of banks have gone to the wall like the RBS and similar. And before people saying about bankers' bonuses and things, you've got to think this is the reason why the economy... It's not bankers' poor judgment, it's people wanting remortgages and estate agents predominantly overvaluing houses so they can make more percentage on the houses. And why I bring up old people particularly is, basically, the elderly or old people get a winter fuel allowance. If you're not aware of what that is, basically it's a payment every year of £200 towards the heating and fuel bills. Not everybody gets it, but the old people do. So basically, no matter what income level they've got, whether they own 25 houses or they're living on the streets, they all get £200 a year towards their winter fuel payments. And there are people who've been on the news recently who are living in the south of France, yet they still get winter fuel allowance. I don't understand why it isn't means tested. If it was means tested, the right people would get it, the people that don't need it wouldn't get it, and the economy a bit more fair on the other people who need the money. I mean, there are families with kids out there who would love to get winter fuel allowance every year. Wouldn't a £200 payment help you out every year? I don't know why the government does that. So my thought is means test the winter fuel allowance and stop making out the elderly have not done anything to wreck the economy. Because my concern is that people like myself of working age are going to work. By the time we come to retirement age, there's not going to be a pension pot left obviously for us to have a pension out of, and also we're going to have to keep in more in now for people gradually getting older. And it's not right when they're sitting in massive houses, they're not paying for anything in society, expecting the taxpayers to pay into like the NHS while they take everything out of it. And it's just not fair because a lot of them have got too much money. I'm not saying all pensioners have money because they don't. But a lot do. High percentage of them live in big houses, have several holidays a year, and have too much money because they're not paying enough into society. So basically, my thought is why aren't more benefits pensioners means tested? It would make things a lot fairer, and people who genuinely need the help will get it, and people who don't won't. It's as simple as that. Again, if you'd like to leave your comments or video response, that would be brilliant. But thanks for listening. Goodbye.